Hi, everybody. It's Elaine here, the Animal Reiki Lady, and today we are talking about guilt. That is a topic that comes up again and again and again, and I don't ever mind talking about it because if I would love to do everything possible to help people overcome the guilt that we feel after our pet crosses. And I say we because this is my little Winston right here. I'm not in my home right now. Excuse me. Where my Lucy, I keep my little memorial for Lucy there, but I know exactly what it feels like to have our pets cross and the guilt that comes along with that. So today's question, first of all, I'm the Animal Reiki Lady. In case this is the first time you're watching one of my videos, I help people make deep, personal, spiritual connections with the animals in their life, both here that spend time with us here on Earth and those who have crossed to the other side. And that's what we're going to talk about right now because I take your questions. So anything that's on your mind, any kinds of questions that you want to ask, you put them in the comments below. And I love to do these live stream videos for you. And I am a live streamer and I'm usually always surrounded by animals. So I am right now back in the Rocky Mountains. I am dog sitting for two very energetic Weimaraners and also one little blind French bulldog. And it's a beautiful space to be, but you never know what's going to happen. So just bear with me as I do this live stream for you guys. Plus, I also like to talk from the heart. I love to be connected with animals spiritually, and whatever information they share with me is the information that I like to share with you. And so I go with the flow and I speak from my heart. I don't ever use a script. So when I talk to you, you're getting the real thing. You're getting the real deal, me heart to heart to you. So the thing about guilt is so strong. Guilt is probably one of the strongest and most and lowest vibration emotions that we can have. And it's a very human condition. We are the only species that I'm aware of that is impacted by guilt. Now, when I look at dogs, now think about this. Those shaming pages, when we shame our dogs, we put up a little sign after they've done something wrong. Excuse me. And we make them look super guilty. Hang on, I'm going to grab a drink. This also happens. Rocky Mountains, high desert, very dry. Always keep your water handy. Okay. So those shaming sites. Let me set this back over here, where we everything's going to tip over. Where we make our animals feel bad for something that they've done and we cause them to feel guilt. So dogs can learn guilt. It is something that we teach. And we've been taught it since we were children to feel guilty about different things. And we would not feel that guilt if somebody hadn't first taught it to us and showed us what it was. So guilt is a human condition. The question that came up from one of the viewers here was, I feel so guilty because I put my dog to sleep. I felt pressured by my family. The dog was aggressive and was attacking another dog in the household. And this person finally gave in and had their dog put to sleep and now regrets it. The guilt and the regret are overwhelming. I totally understand. And that guilt runs the gamut. And it usually happens when we have had to make a decision about euthanasia, when we've had to make a decision about putting our pet to sleep. So Winston crossed on his own, but my Lucy, we had to make a decision. So if you want to talk about guilt, this was not necessarily that kind of guilt. I'm just trying to give an example of how guilt crosses all lines. Lucy first got sick in March of last year. So it was March of 2020. And Lucy got sick and she was 13 years old and she began to lose feeling in her lower extremities. She couldn't control herself anymore. And she actually was, there was no other explanation for it. The little French bulldog is scratching the chair back here. Hang on, I'm going to get him for you so you guys can see. This is Libby. Say hello, Libby. Libby cannot see. She also is losing her hearing. But say hello, Libby, and you can stop scratching here. Just sit right there quietly on my lap. Yeah, this is what you get when we do live streams. Okay, so Lucy, she was unresponsive. That's the best word for it. I had her comfortably. I made a nice little bed for her on the couch. She was completely unresponsive. I was prepared to take her to the veterinarian the following day. But in my heart, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't bring myself to do it. And Lucy stayed with me. She had a couple more good months, but then she really, really deteriorated. And I did feel guilt. I felt guilt about being selfish. Was I just keeping her here with me for me? Was it not? She had no quality of life. She did not have a good quality of life. I had to use a harness to lift her up so she could go outside to do her business. And then in the very end, she couldn't even do that. And so that guilt comes from all sides. We make ourselves feel guilty. Others make us feel guilty. We may look at videos or we may search the internet and we're feeling guilty about all kinds of different things. Guilt is a really low vibration emotion. And I'm going to try to explain this in a couple different ways. Animals don't do guilt, by the way. They just don't do guilt. If we're down here, I'm trying, here, let me rest my hand on you, Libby. If we're feeling guilt down here, when our animals cross to the other side, they're way up here. Their vibration is so high. Their energy has crossed into pure positive love, and they can't relate. It's like being on two different radio stations. I've given this analogy before. It's like you're down here on the 80s rock station, and they're way up here on the classical music station, and the two can never meet. But when you begin to tune your dial, you can begin to meet them. And the great thing about our animal companions is that they come down to join us. They recognize when we're making the effort. Getting a little bit ahead of myself. So first, what do you do about the guilt? Because you don't want to be down here. That guilt stops us from connecting with them up here. They're in heaven and we're stuck down here. How do we reach them? And you can do it. The easiest thing for me to say, but the hardest thing for me to do, is to tell you to just let go. That is probably the hardest way to release the guilt, is just to free yourself from it. Give yourself permission to not be guilty anymore. And those words come out so easily, but I know how hard it is not to get rid of that guilt, to shake that guilt, to give yourself that kind of permission. But that would be the quickest way. The quickest way would be just do it. Let go of it. You don't have to carry that burden anymore. You don't have to carry that baggage at all. And because your animal has already forgiven you. So the number one person who needs to forgive you is you. Your animal, we'll talk about this in a second, has already forgiven you. It's you, it's your heart, it's your mind, it's your soul that is not allowing you to forgive yourself. So you need to forgive you. So I would recommend, and I will post a link for this. Oh, I know I can do this here. I can go follow the Ho'oponopono video. I did a video specifically for self-forgiveness. It's on the topic of Ho'oponopono, which is a Hawaiian tradition of forgiveness. And when you use it for yourself, very, very powerful. It is about forgiving yourself, saying you're sorry, expressing love. It's a beautiful little tradition, and you can watch that video. So forgive yourself is the number one, and know that your animal companion has already forgiven you. Your dog, your cat, your dog, your lizard, whatever it may be, your horse. When they cross, they immediately return to pure positive love, pure positive energy. And they don't take anything with them. They do not carry grudges. When they cross, it is instantaneous. That transition to the other side, instantaneously, they go back to source. They go back to love. They become that universal love that is animal Reiki. I'm an animal Reiki master. That universal love, they go right back to it, and they carry no grudges. You are forgiven. And I know this because Lucy has shared it with me, Winston has shared it with me, and the numerous animals who I have had the honor of being with as they crossed and connecting with after crossing have shared this with me, that they just don't hold, not only do they not hold grudges, they don't even understand the concept. They don't get it. You are forgiven. Immediately, you are forgiven. So then what? They try to connect with us. They want us to know how beautiful it is for them. They want us to know where they are and what they're up to. And they want you to know that you're forgiven. But how do they tell you? Because they can't reach you, because they're up here and you're down here. They can't reach you. So what do? I'm going to give you a quick crash course in animal communication. And I always say, I use this analogy. If you can believe that Tom Cruise can jump from the top of a 100-story building, land on the ground, and not break a single bone, you can set aside your disbelief for just one time. Just one moment, set aside your disbelief and trust that you can make this connection with your pets who have crossed to the other side. I'm going to give you some quick instructions and I'm going to give you some examples, and then I want you to try it. I want you to try tonight, tomorrow night, the next night. Keep it up for several days and see if you can't make that connection. And they'll also help you release that guilt because they want to connect with us. It is energy. Animals don't leave us, they simply shift. I've used this analogy before as well. When you have ice and the ice melts and it turns to water, and you boil the water and it turns to steam, and the steam goes up into the air and it hasn't gone anywhere, it has just changed form. You still have access to your animal companion's love and energy. So how do you do it? And the easiest way to set aside disbelief, I call it the magic spot, the sweet spot. It's right before sleep. It is when your conscious mind that has all the doubts and questions, it's when your conscious mind is going to rest and your subconscious mind is taking over. There's a magic little moment right in there where you can make that connection. And so what I recommend that you do is before bed, you get a pad of paper. I always keep, in fact, you guys know I have tons of these. I have boxes full of these. Keep a notebook right by your bedside with a pen. When you are falling and drifting off to sleep, perhaps you're going to say ho'oponopono to yourself. Please forgive me. I'm sorry. Thank you. I love you. Just say these things to yourself. Remind yourself that you are forgiven. You forgive yourself. Your animal companion has forgiven you. And as you're drifting off to sleep, set the intention that you would like to connect with them. Set the intention that you are open to it. Set the intention that you love them, that you are ready to hear what they have to share with you, and then gently drift off to sleep. There isn't anything else you need to do. Drift off to sleep. They reach out to you and to your subconscious mind. It's easier to reach your subconscious mind that does not have all those blocks and barriers and resistance. So they reach out to your subconscious mind when you first wake up in the morning. When you first wake up, before you throw the covers off, before you step out of bed, before you turn on your phone, before you go pee, I want you to pick up your book and write down whatever comes into your mind. Write down what your animal companion had to share with you, and trust that they are trying to come through to you. Now, I've been doing this for years, so I get it, I understand it, I believe it. I trust everything my Lucy shares with me. Lucy is the one who comes to me most often. Lucy is the one who usually has the most information to share with me. But I call it my entourage because Jake always comes to me often, as well as my Winston. Not as often. Winston, believe it or not, usually when I get some kind of message from Winston, it's about where he is, and it's on a beach chasing birds. But you can get this. Now, here's the other thing that I want to share with you. Animal communication is not linear the way that humans communicate. We think of picking up the cell phone, somebody says something, we hear it, and we know what they said. It doesn't quite work that way because animal perspective is much different than ours. So be prepared for a feeling. That's usually the first way that our animals try to get through to us, is with an intense feeling. So you may wake up in the morning and all of a sudden just you realize, wow, I feel amazingly calm. Or, oh my gosh, I didn't wake up feeling guilty this morning. That's the first way that they try to connect with you. It's the easiest way for them to connect is through feeling. So write down the feeling. And then as you get more and more comfortable with this, begin to write down other things. Now, I call it, even though that communication is not linear, the way we think of communicating with each other, I talk to you, you talk to me, we listen, we hear. It's more about a sense of a knowing and an understanding, where 1 minute you did not have an idea and the next minute you did. That's the kind of thing that I want you to write down. So write down what came to you after you fell asleep. And then sometimes it'll start to come to you before you fall asleep and you can write it down. Sometimes it'll come to you in a dream. So the ways that they try to connect with us are many. They will try everything possible to get your attention. They will use all of your senses. You'll smell something. You'll hear something, something that will immediately remind you of them. You may hear their name. You may sense that they've jumped on the bed. There are any number of ways that they use your senses to try to connect with you. The other way is through dreams. So they may come to you in a dream. And then finally, I forgot all about this example. I haven't used this in a long time. There was a dog named Sue. And when Sue crossed, was the dog named Sue? Gosh, it's been a while. Um, but Sue came back in another dog. So the next door neighbor's dog buried a hole under the fence and would come and scratch at the door for Sue's human companion. And Sue would open the door and the dog would come in, and she had no idea why this was happening. And it was because Susie was trying to connect with her. Susie was trying to use another animal, like sharing. Susie was trying to, that other animal was allowing Susie to share life and coming to that human companion. So that's a little bit more advanced, and that takes a little bit more trust in your animal companion in trying to reach you. So for now, what I'm recommending is just to focus on the bedtime thing. Focus on going to sleep, and as you're going to sleep, set the intention to connect with your animal companion. And then in the morning when you wake up, recognize whatever you're feeling and write it down immediately. And do this a couple nights in a row. You're going to want to try to make a habit of it. Just like playing the piano or going to the gym, and you work out a muscle. One time you feel great, but then don't do it for 5 days, and then you're like, I wonder what happened there. It takes some practice, and it takes some time, and it takes making this a habit. So what I want you to know, most important, is number one, the one person you need to forgive is yourself. Number two, your animal has already forgiven you. And number three, just release the guilt and trust that you can connect with them. They want to connect with you. If you want more information about this, if you have more questions, put them in the comments below. I could talk about this all day, all night, 24/7. And check out some of the other videos. YouTube does a nice job of linking some of the videos, like it'll put some little things up that show which videos they think you might want to watch. But I have playlists for pet loss. I have playlists for Rainbow Bridge, for making connections across the Rainbow Bridge. So take a look at some of those. They've been going on for a year now, and as time goes on, I get more comfortable conveying this information, but still, I would recommend going back and taking a look at some of them. And definitely check out Ho'oponopono. Okay, that's it for now. I hope I answered your question. If I didn't, don't hesitate to let me know, because I could keep on going. All right, wherever you are in the world, take care, have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, and may the animals continue to light your way.